And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm pregnant and I'm homeless. I don't know if that's an ideal situation to find oneself in, but I guess I'm reaping the consequences of my actions. I've never hated a person like I hate my ex-boyfriend's close friend and his colleague. They are evil and I blame them too. It never gets easy and it never just goes away. I cheated on my boyfriend who was planning to propose with his close friend, and then he found out and threw me out of his house. I'm heartbroken and confused because I know that I caused everything. I knew a day like this would come when he would finally find out the truth, but I had no idea that the day had been coming sooner than expected. My name is Leah, and I'm a 25 years old personal shopper and fashion designer. Many people do not cease to tell me that they feel like I don't actually have a real job, but it's all good. I love what I do because it gives me peace of mind. Now that I'm in this situation, I can't help but depend on what I do to get me back in my feet. The name of my ex-boyfriend is Samson, and he's 27 years old, and he's a medical laboratory scientist. Samson and I met just 2 years ago at a mutual friends party. It was the first time we had seen each other in years, and we really wanted to get to know each other. I couldn't even believe that we had mutual friends, yet we never had the opportunity to meet. I was 23 years old back then, but I was already done with college and had been looking for a job. I also had a boyfriend back then, but it was just a fling, and I didn't really take him serious because he was the lazy type. I've always been someone that is very interested in men that have a plan for their future and have something they planned their finances for. I don't like lazy men who think it's better to feed off whatever they earned. I know I might get roasted in the comment section for the statement, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, one of the reasons I was very attracted to Samson was the fact that he was a medical laboratory scientist and had other side businesses. I was attracted to his hardworking nature, and the fact that he was intelligent just added to the list. I was extremely happy when I was told that he wanted to get my number. We has been staring at each other throughout the party, but none of us made the first move, so when I got to know from my friend that he wanted to speak to me and have my phone number, I was really excited. I walked up to him and then we started talking. He was very nice, but he was not the type of guy to say cheesy and corny stuffs. He kept his words very respectful, and he was also smart in the way you spoke. I got attracted to that and we began talking for weeks. We finally hooked up and started dating, and that was the start of our relationship. 1 year later, I moved in with him because he suggested, and I did not refuse because I did not see anything wrong with it. He was my boyfriend and I did not think it was wrong for me to move in with him. When I moved in with him, it was a very nice experience because she provided everything I needed and made sure I was very comfortable. It felt like I was even living in a hotel because of the amount of care that I got from him in his house. I really appreciated that, and it made me more excited to live with him. Like I said earlier, I was dating a medical laboratory scientist. Even though we've broken up, it's something I would never be afraid to brag about because Samson is very intelligent and hardworking, and he deserves all the accolades he can get. At first, I did not think he was the type of guy that would respect a woman and even be in a long-time relationship. To be honest, I was insecure in the relationship at first because I'd not been in many long-lasting relationships before. Even though he didn't do anything that will make me raise my eyebrows, I always felt like it was not end up being a long-lasting thing. But he proved me wrong, and when we reached the 1 year mark, I was really excited for what the future held because I loved him a lot. When we moved in together, I became very positive, and I actually believed that we were going to end up getting married. Like I said, he is a medical laboratory scientist, and that means that he earned a lot. He has a very beautiful house, and he doesn't really lack money because he has a lot of side businesses. And that's why I believe that he would be the type that didn't have a problem with getting married at any point in time. To me, I had found my dream guy, and I was very skeptical about letting that slip off my finger. It was not just about the money, it was the fact that he was the first man that actually took me serious and didn't try to play games. I didn't want to lose in, and I think that's the problem, and that's why I ended up losing him in the end. It's not good to always think about a particular thing and let your mind stay focused on that thing, especially when it's a negative thing, because at the end of the day, what you think about most is likely to happen, I guess. So I know that the beginning of this has made you all just wonder what could have made me cheat on him when I'm praising him. Well, even I want to ask myself that question because I'm very ashamed, but I know the truth, and so I want to let you or not. For the first 3 months of living with him, I got really insecure, and that was thanks to one of his female friends I met at a party. She actually talked down on me when she was told that I was his girlfriend. Of course, she did not see the nasty things in front of him. He invited me to a birthday party that happened to be for his sister, and his colleagues were also present because his sister also worked in the same place as him. When we got the party, I instantly knew that I would be very uncomfortable because most of the people that present were people I didn't recognize at all. Samson has always been someone to keep his personal and work like private, and it's something he always told me. He never saw the need to introduce me to his colleagues, and I never saw the need to introduce him to my colleagues, because he told me he didn't like mixing his personal life. It is work life because things could get messy. I didn't understand what he said before, and I just brushed it off because it was not an important thing for me. But now, I have realized that he was just trying to protect his relationship, and I have gone ahead to make one of his biggest fears come true. I didn't meet his closest friend until that party, and he never bothered to introduce the both of us. One time, I even offered to introduce my friends to him, but he refused and said they were not an important part of our relationship, and we didn't need to introduce each other to our friends because there was not a need for that. So at the party, most of the people present were his colleagues, his friends, and even his schoolmates. His sister and I were cordial, and we were still getting to know each other at that point, but we were definitely not enemies, and we hanged out once in a while. When she saw me, she got really excited, and that's when she told me she was really happy I could make it. Samson had gone to have a conversation with his friends, so I was alone, and she offered to introduce me to her colleagues. Just like I told you all earlier, Samson and his sister work at the same place, so they literally have the same colleagues. They are both medical laboratory scientists. It's safe to say that it's a family business because even their junior brother is in college right now studying a medical course. So let me get back to what I was telling you guys. She pulled me to go meet her colleagues, and that's when I met the rude girl called Layla. She isn't even someone I would pay attention to on a normal day, because I'm not the type of person to have anything to do with rude people who felt the need to put other people down on a daily basis. But because she was Christina's colleague, Samson's sister, I had no choice but to meet someone like her. Everyone else was nice, and they all seemed to be intrigued by the fact that I was Samson's girlfriend. They knew he had a girlfriend, but I didn't really know who she was because he never introduced her to them. Among the people I met was also Samson's closest friend, Mason. He's not a medical laboratory scientist, but he's a banker. He was one of the nicest people there because he told me it was his responsibility to make his closest friend's girlfriend feel welcome. But Layla was the perfect definition of a bitter lady with so much life problems that should felt the need to project her bitter nature to other people. She was so rude, and she had an attitude, and even though I tried not to pay attention to her, I noticed our attitude from the moment I was introduced as Samson's girlfriend. I don't even know why she had a big problem with that or why she thought it was any of her business who he dated. Even though I noticed that she was being rude and trying to make me feel uncomfortable, I didn't say anything about that or react because I knew that it was just a few minutes of conversation and I would not have to have her in my personal space. But I realized I was very long for thinking that after she cornered me in the bathroom. I had excused myself from the gathering because I needed to go use the bathroom. I had been in my monthly period by that time, and so I got uncomfortable really fast and needed to take a few bathroom breaks. Samson had told me not to come because he was aware of how uncomfortable I could get during my periods, but I wanted to come and support his sister, and that's why I came. When I was done and just wanted to leave the bathroom, Layla suddenly appeared and told me she had something very important she wanted to say to me. I knew it was a big red flag, that she couldn't say what she wanted to say in front of everyone else, and had to come see me into bathroom to say it. But I didn't want to act like I was scared of her and just walk away. I'm sure my fellow Redditors can back me up on this one, especially my fellow Redditors, because we all know that when another female tries to act like a rude brat, it's always best not to walk away without showing them that you can also be rude if you wanted to. So when I asked her what was so important that she could not say it in front of everyone else, she told me to get off my high horse and stop acting high and mighty. I was surprised because I never saw that coming, and I didn't get how what she said had anything to do in context to anything that had happened in the party. She told me that I was just a fashion designer who was still struggling and that I was lucky to even date Samson in the first place. She said I should cherish the little moment I had with him because she could bet with her life that he would leave me too, now or later, for someone more intelligent than a struggling fashion designer like me. According to her, I was just too cheap and unintelligent to be dating a medical laboratory scientist. I was shocked to say the least because I didn't expect his colleague to say something like that to me once. when I just met her for the first time, and I did not do anything to warrant such a reaction. She told me that it was only intelligent women like her who were in the same line of work with him that deserved to date him. After giving her a piece of my mind, which was not really a very peaceful piece, I left the bathroom and went back to the party. That's when Mason spotted me and decided to have a conversation with me. He asked me what I was doing at the party alone, and I told him that Samson had gone to have a conversation with some of his friends. That's when he asked me if I would like to hear some stories about him and Samson. According to him, he wanted to let me know more about my boyfriend by telling me some embarrassing stories about of them. Of course, I got excited and really wanted to know what he wanted to say, and that's why I decided to follow him to the balcony and listen to what he wanted to say. But now I know that was a wrong mistake because missing is the perfect definition of a flirt and tease. Instead of actually talking about the childhood stories he said he would talk about, he just kept talking about himself and how he was hardworking and this and that. I actually got tired when I realized that he made no move to actually talk about Samson, so I excused myself and went back to the party. When Samson spotted me, he asked me where I had been because he had been looking for me, and I told him that I met up with his close friend, and he wanted to talk about their childhood stories, but I decided to look for him first. Samson was surprised that I got to meet Mason, and he asked me how I was able to meet up with him. I told him that it was a sister, Christina, that introduced us while she was introducing me to her colleagues and friends. He told me that Mason was one of his closest friends and that he wanted to introduce the both of us himself. We joked about it, and I told him that he could still introduce us if he wanted. He told me he was just joking and asked me to wait for him while he went to say goodbye to his friends. The party was not yet over, but he knew that I was uncomfortable, so he wanted us to get back home fast. While he was away, Mason came and asked for my phone number. I was surprised at first, but then he told me it was just so he could keep in contacts. I didn't think much about it, and so we exchanged phone numbers before I left with Samson. When we got back to the house, I couldn't help but keep thinking about what Layla had said. Even though I tried to act tough and I did not tell Samson about it, her words got to me and I became very insecure. I felt like she was right and Samson would not really marry me. I also felt like I was just wasting my time because there was every possibility that he already had plans to marry Layla. And I know it was a stupid thought, but I couldn't help but think that way. I could probably sleep that night, so I decided to tell Samson what Layla had said to me. He was surprised, and he just told me to forget about it and stop acting out because something like that would not happen. Even though he assured me in a way, I still didn't feel good after I realized that he made no move to assure me that he would marry me. That really made me raise my eyebrows and start to second-guess stuff. Insecurity is a very bad thing because it makes you just overthink things and go to funny lengths to find out things that are not necessary. And it was my insecurity that led me to call Mason one day and ask him to meet me for coffee. He didn't refuse, and he even got there before me. He was actually surprised that I had contacted him and he asked me was so important. It was at that moment that I asked him if Samson had any other girlfriends that I did not know of. Mason didn't reply me at first, and he was beating around the bush and trying to code his words. That actually made me get very nervous, because I didn't understand why his closest friend could not just directly assure me or give me the right answers. I decided to refresh the question and ask him if he believed that Samson would eventually marry me. His reply was very shocking because he told me that Samson didn't seem like he was ready to settle down anytime soon. He told me that even if Samson was to settle down with anyone, he didn't believe that it would be me because he felt like something was just using me to pass away time. His words actually hurt me, and when he saw that I got offended, he told me he was sorry and that he was just saying the honest truth. I then decided to ask him why he was so sure about that, and he told me that Samson was more of the type of person who was interested in women in a more professional line of work. I thought so angry that I left the cafe and decided to go to a bar. Mason ran after me and offered to take me to the bar himself. When we got to the bar, we bought a lot of things, and I literally drunk myself to stupor. He said something that really caught my attention and made me do something so stupid. He told me that he lied me and had plans to marry me. According to him, he had eyes for me the moment he saw me at the party, and he wanted to assure me that even though his friend was not going to marry me, he would marry me. He got really flirtatious and started telling me several stories about how Samson flirts with other women at the office. He made up a lot of stories and even showed me pictures. After that, he asked me to follow him home, and I did. He made fake promises and assured me he wanted to date me. Just like the 304 I am, I foolishly slept with him. I didn't go back home the next day, and I slept with him that same day. I spent the whole day with him, which meant I spent the whole day cheating on my boyfriend, because I thought I was not in a serious relationship after all. We didn't use protection because, according to Mason, there was no protection. He promised to pull out, and he did, but I'm not sure if that happened the night we were drunk. He told me he was clean, and I was also clean, so we didn't hesitate. I think I'm the world's dirtiest girl because how could I be so foolish? I'm pregnant now, but I'm sure I could have also ended up with an STD, for crying out loud. When I went back home, I convinced Samson that I just went to stay with a relative. I started avoiding him and getting very distant because I believed that he would end up leaving me anyway. I kept seeing Mason after that, and we slept together a lot. Well, I got the shock of my life when I got sick and missed my period for the following month. When I checked, I realized I was pregnant. I spoke to Mason about it, and that's when the bitter truth came out. He told me that he actually lied to me and that the pictures he showed me were old pictures of the women Samson had dated. He told me he was not ready for the child, and I should abort it because he was not interested in being a father. He called me a lose woman for not taking birth control pills. Well, I refused to take birth control pills because I believed that he would marry me at the end of the day. I didn't think it was important because he also pulled out. But I guess I'm the fool. He blocked me on all social media platforms and completely ghosted me. I needed to find the truth, so I decided to ask Christina about the dynamic between Layla and Mason. After I got rejected by Mason, I just believed that something was fishy. The fact that he told me the exact same thing Layla told me at the party was fishy. Christina told me that Layla was actually Mason's sister. Yes, Guy, they are sisters. That's when I knew that I'd been trapped. Christina asked me why I asked, and I told her Layla had been rude to me. She told me not to worry about it because Layla was just jealous because she has feelings for Samson. It finally made sense to me that Layla and Mason made a plan to get me to cheat on Samson. Mason wanted to help his sister out. I felt betrayed, and I ran home to tell Samson the truth, hoping that he would believe me. Unfortunately for me, I saw my things outside of the house. When I got inside and asked him why my things were outside, he showed me pictures of me with Mason and also a picture of the pregnancy test. Apparently, Mason had sent the pictures to Samson after I left the test at his house. Samson was very disappointed, and he cussed me out for minutes. Everything happened so fast that I thought I was in a dream. He also played the voice recording of me telling Mason I was pregnant. I explained everything to him and tried to make him understand that I was set up, but he sent me out of the house. Before he closed the door, he showed me the engagement ring he planned to use to propose to me on my birthday. I called Christina in the phone and asked her if Samson had been planning a proposal, and she was surprised that I knew of it. I begged her to tell me the truth, and she told me Samson had been planning a surprise proposal with his friends at work. He wanted to propose to me, and that's why his friends were so excited to see me. Christina didn't know about what happened yet, so I just told her to call her brother for answers. I was too ashamed to try and defend myself. I finally realized that Layla and Mason went to those extreme lengths because they knew that Samson planned to marry me, and so they had no choice than to stop low. I cried myself to sleep and almost lost my mind. I stayed on the road for almost 3 hours, homeless and clueless of where to go. Now I'm just crashing at a friend's place. I'm single, homeless, and pregnant. Update. I had to get rid of the baby because I didn't want to bring up a child I knew I couldn't provide for. I'm still crashing with someone and I'm broke. I also have asthma, so my pregnancy could have been high risk. Without enough money and stability, I would have put my life and that of the baby at stake. I also don't want a child with that beast called Mason. He didn't use protection intentionally because he wanted to give Samson a strong reason to leave me. He was sure I'd abort the baby, and I did. I can't believe there's someone as heartless and evil like him and Layla. Samson comes from a rich family and he's hardworking and has other businesses aside from being a medical laboratory scientist. So, Layla and her brother wanted to trap him to marry her so they could extract money. I called Christina and explained everything to her, even though she made it clear she wished nothing to do with me. She's the one that told Samson the real truth, and I heard he's cut all ties with Mason. He's also warned Layla to stay away from him. Well, we didn't get back together, and I know it's impossible. I broke his trust and acted desperate. He deserves better. At the end of the day, this is the worst experience of my life, and I hope to forget it one day.